What is up, family? You are listening to Living Beyond the Dream podcast, a podcast where we have practical conversations to take the dreams you have for your organization and yourself and turn it into a reality. My name is Mike, joined by my main man, like every week, Tyler. You are tuning into episode 39.
Woo.
39 weeks we've been rolling this thing out.
Amazing.
Can't believe it's been gone. It's flown by.
Yeah.
But it's been awesome, man.
It's been incredible.
And I've been blessed. Can you do me a favor? Hey, we've been doing this for 39 weeks. Please share this.
Yes.
Please rate and review it if you haven't already. Please subscribe. I don't know why you haven't already. You keep tuning in every week. Just subscribe. Rate it and review it. It really helps us get that reach out there. It really would mean the world to us.
Yeah.
I'm excited about this episode because we are on part 2 of a 2-parter. So if you missed part 1, you want to hop back over to episode 38 and check it in. So what are we talking about today?
The 4 critical roles of a senior pastor or a CEO
That's right.
role. To review, what are those roles?
Vision, culture, leadership development, and communication. And basically the way I say it is vision, where are we going?
Yep.
Culture, how do we feel? Leadership development, who's taking us there? Communication, does the body or the organization know? Those are 4 things that I feel like are the most important aspect for a leader.
Yeah.
And that's what I spend about 80% of my time really focusing on. And a lot of people go, well, how do you divvy it up? Well, you'll know in a week schedule, looking at your week, what do you spend the majority of your time on?
Yeah.
And if you're not talking about or thinking about those things as the majority of the time, you're probably finding yourself doing roles that should be empowered to someone else, that you're holding on to things that you don't necessarily need to hold on to. And you may say, well, Pastor Mike, that's, we're a small church, or I'm trying to, and I get that. And maybe at the beginning you are a small church, but you need to clearly define what hats you're wearing so you can start handing them off. Because I'm telling you, if you want to continue to grow as your organization, you've got to spend your time focused on these 4 things, or your organization won't be healthy.
Yeah.
And if it's not healthy, healthy things are what grows. So if you're unhealthy, it's not going to be growing. And so it gives me the ability to really do that. And there's some other things I do in my week.
Yeah.
But I spend most of the time focusing on these things, thinking about these things, and dreaming about these things. So,
yeah.
All right.
So last week we broke down vision and culture, and like Mike said, if you missed it, go back, listen. It was super powerful. But today we're talking about leadership development and communication. So to start off, we're going to dive into leadership development first. And I think this one, obviously if you hear it, yes, we need to develop leaders because we all want leaders and all that. But to get a little bit more specific, why is leadership development important?
Well, I'll tell you a little bit why I think it's important for you to focus on as the CEO or the lead pastor, is because it's very natural for your people to follow into the doer slot instead of the leader slot. And so when I'm talking about leadership development, it's me not necessarily thinking about what are all the programs we need to create that's going to create leaders in each department.
Yeah.
It's me focusing on, am I developing our leaders to the fact that they're developing leaders, right?
Yeah.
Am I creating an environment where I'm making sure they're not just doers, but they're empowerers?
Yeah.
And that's an important thing for me to focus on a lot and really make sure that's what we're doing. And I remember years ago, hearing Pastor Chris Hodges down at Church of Highlands, which dynamic church.
Yeah.
I remember making a statement. He goes, I told my staff, if I catch them doing ministry, I will fire them. And I remember going, what? But what else are they supposed to do? They're on staff at a church.
Yeah.
And then he makes a statement, because they're called to be leaders to develop our people to do ministry and to be leaders. And that always stuck with me.
Yeah.
Because then it made me realize he's making sure he's creating an environment where he's keeping them accountable to that, but also making sure that he's not just ignoring that, but he's focusing on that.
Yeah.
And so my goal is always saying, am I creating an environment where our people have the goggles of leaders, where they're identifying leaders and developing leaders and creating an environment where that's normal, that their leaders now feel like they need to identify leaders, create leaders. So that's where I'm always thinking about, what's the multiplication effect of our church?
Yeah.
Are we multiplying? Or are we just adding?
Yeah.
And leaders multiply, but doers just add to their impact.
What are some activities or best practices that you've put into place or that you normally do to focus on leadership development?
Well, activities or things that I do is mainly, in a lot of aspects, it's the creating the feedback and communication within our organization.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to figure out, how wide is their department? And what do I mean by that?
Yeah.
That if you are just a single leader that's a doer, it's just one silo effect. It's you at the top and everybody kind of just follows in line that's doing their jobs. But leaders create leaders. So a leader will have a lead team.
Yeah.
But off that lead team will now start building a lead team. And then they start building mini lead teams, right? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And now there's a wide root system that's being built, which is now the ability to sustain a larger department because it has the structure to do it. So I'm always looking at what's the width that creates the depth, that creates the strength for your department. So I'm always thinking about that. And the way we do that is, remember the culture aspect, right? Yep. Healthy things grow, and we're trying to create how people feel. But my thought process is, first you need to understand, do you have a healthy culture where you're constantly investing in people? And then when you have that ability to invest in people, are your leaders putting on goggles to say, I don't have to wear every hat, but I'm going to identify potential in people and be able to hand things off and see them become who they're created to be.
Yeah.
The greatest calling of a Christian, a disciple, is to be able to discover the God-given potential in people. Every person was created with a gifting.
Yeah.
And if everybody was created with a gifting, Paul said it like this: we were created all to be parts of the body to fit together to help each other out.
Right.
Which means everybody has a place to fit. And if everybody has a place to fit, as the leaders in the church, it's our job to identify their roles and get them fitting in their God-given calling so we can strengthen each other.
Yeah.
That's what the calling of love is.
Yeah.
The calling of love is not a feeling. It's not an emotion. The spiritual gift, the fruits of the spirit of love is I love you so much that I will serve you even to the point of sacrifice to see you become who you're created to be. That is the job and the role of a leader. That's why Paul says we are to model the way Jesus served. Left heaven to be born like a human, a slave, to die a criminal's death so that we could live. He loved us so much, he identified the potential of humanity even while we were in our muck and mess and we weren't perfect yet.
Yeah.
Yet he put himself in an opportunity to not be promoted and not to be all the feels and have all the glory, but to be born like a human, like a slave, and to die a criminal's death, which means he selflessly gave his life away so we could live. That's what we do as leaders.
Yeah.
That even when we see people that aren't perfect yet, but there's potential there, we identify it. And then we put ourselves in a place that we're not always having to get all the glory. Oh, you're the greatest leader. You're the greatest talent. You're doing all this. But we're going to put ourselves in a place of service like Jesus to elevate people, even to the point that's a sacrifice. Because sometimes it is a sacrifice to develop people. It takes your time. It's hard to the point so that they can actually walk in their God. And then they turn around and do the exact same thing because we discipled it. That is such an that's the most important thing we're supposed to be doing as believers. We are not called to be Christians. We're called to be disciples. And that happens when you disciple other people. Leadership development.
Man, that's good. So let's switch gears. Let's talk about communication. Why is communicating important? Why is it one of the 4 important roles?
Because here's the thing. You may be able to have a great vision. You may even care about culture. And you're trying to instill culture to your volunteers and your key leaders. You may even have leadership development going inside of your organization, right? But if you're not communicating it to the entire organization, then guess what? You're going to start getting overrun by the majority, and the minority's not going to have influence.
Yeah.
And what do I mean by that? Is that it's very easy to let outside critics define your organization. And too many times, we need to make sure it's a constant theme in our church of where we're going and what we stand for and what the culture and values of our church is and where we want our church to be moving forward. And it needs to be on a frequent communication basis. And so what I mean is that too many times we got some insider info lingo. We got some insider info dreams. We got some insider info values, but we don't let the Sunday crowd know. We don't let the majority of our people know. We kind of just let our key leaders know. But that doesn't penetrate deep enough. You need to also be able to let everyone know, because there's some people in your crowd that goes, you know what? I needed to hear that because that's not the way I've been thinking. Or I want to be a part of that. And we're giving the unification of what we're trying to do as a whole. And so when I'm communicating on a Sunday, I'm constantly thinking about what are our objectives for people. And what do I mean? Well, we have 4 things that we stand for here. We're very, very normal progression steps we want to take, next steps we want people to take. So I'm always thinking about, am I communicating that in a Sunday message?
Yeah.
Somehow am I weaving how important it is to know Jesus? Every week we do that. Some way I'm weaving in is how important I think it is to do life with people and to be in a life group. Some way I'm weaving in how I think it's important that you start serving and be active with your faith.
Yeah.
And so I'm communicating that from the platform about things like that. Then I'm also communicating from the platform some cultural values that we have and we stand for.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly doing that. So I'm learning the art of trying to grow people that aren't taking those next steps yet, but have the potential to. Because sometimes we have to learn that some people are at a different pace in their progression than others.
Yeah.
And yet we don't need to ignore them, but we need to communicate them. And we're unifying the entire church to realize, hey, this is what we stand for.
Yeah.
So whenever other people start hearing some negative things, they go, no, that's not really a Bloom thing.
Yeah.
Or you know what? Gossip, we're not going to really be doing that here because you know what? We know kind of this is where Pastor Mike and the staff are really thinking about, or this is kind of what we stand for. So it's starting to squash some of those things that are trying to divide us because communication is key for the entire body.
Yeah. I feel like it's easy to think you hear communication from a senior pastor and you think just Sunday sermon.
Yeah.
But it's so much more. It's everything that you were just saying. It actually kind of ties in the other 3 roles that we were just talking about with vision, culture, and leadership development. Communication is so important in that. So what are some best practices or activities that you would recommend or that you personally do to improve your communication skills?
Well, I'm very conscious about, am I introducing a next step in my sermons every week?
Yeah.
I'm not saying you have to introduce every next step you have, but am I weaving one of them in at least every week?
Giving direction.
Yes. The reason why that is important is I'm strategic with it. Because it's easy just to write a sermon but not have no progression for them to do next.
Yeah.
So that to me is a very cultural and conscious decision I'm making every single week.
Yeah.
Am I giving some take home, is what I call them, that they can walk away with and apply it to their life that's really going to get them a little bit closer to the culture we want and then closer to the vision we're trying to go to and get them taking those next steps that we can develop them as leaders once they get plugged in.
Yeah.
So it's always in my mind consciously. Every week I look at it and go, do I have a practical next step for them?
Yeah.
Is there something that they can take home and apply to their life? That's strategic. And a lot of times we're not that strategic with it. So that's where it's very planned out and specific for me every single week. I want people to realize, guess what? I'm not the know-it-all. My job is just to kind of spark something in your mind and let you go home and let God fill the dots for you.
Yeah. That's
and
good.
let God allow you to. You need to just take something and maybe be a little inspired and then run with it because you have it in you to run with it.
Yeah.
You have it in you to live the calling God has for you. You have it in you to have freedom. You have it in you to be the child of God that's called you created. It's not that I'm this magical person. I'm just trying to give you a little nuggets to inspire you and let you go home and start applying it to your life and take those next steps. But I'm strategic with practical take-homes, next steps for them to go in.
Yeah, that's good. Taking it one step further with communication, what are some steps, some best practices to help improve your team's communication?
Well, you need to be really specific with your team on several things. One is clarity is important, and vagueness never gets you anywhere. And so a lot of this is what we talked about several weeks about with the clarity with your expectations.
Yeah.
So I always tell our team, be very clear with your expectations of where you want people to go. Secondly, people don't care about a bunch of facts. They care about compelling stories. And sometimes we want to move people, but you can't move people physically until you move them emotionally.
Yeah.
So you need to be sharing about what God's done in your life or how he's changed other people's lives or why what they're doing is important. Because it's really easy to say, you know what, I've been greeting week in and week out for 6 months now. I get it, right? We're supposed to be friendly people. But then when you talk about how somebody came and they were walking to the bar that's right next to our church, but they were greeted by somebody so well that they ended up coming to our church and gave their life to Jesus because of welcome. That's a compelling story. So we're trying to cast vision with also a cultural win that creates a development in their leadership. That's all communication right there.
Yeah.
So learning the art of being clear but being impactful is important to it. And then it's also important to keep people updated.
Yeah.
Like keep people in the know. right? Let people know what's coming up in the next 30 to 90 days.
Yeah.
Let people know that you're organized and you're put together with what we're planning, and that you're not just throwing things together the day before they're having a rehearsal, their day before a weekend experience. When people know that you're there and with them and for them, it creates a lot more ease because they realize, hey, I don't have to do it all myself, but I have a support system around me, and that creates a lot more comfortability.
Yeah.
So they want to serve and be a part of it. So create clear communication and frequently do that. It's going to help build that a lot. As far as Sunday communication, pastors, prepare.
Yeah.
Make sure you're prepared, dudes. Don't be writing a sermon Saturday. You need to be writing a sermon in plenty of time and ditch the notes.
Get rid of those notes.
I know right now, you're like, how can you preach without notes? You can do it. I promise you. You know your message better than what you think, but you use your notes as a crutch.
Yeah.
Get out there, look your people in the eye, communicate clearly, and allow yourself to connect with them. You're going to be more dynamic. You're going to be more impactful, and you're going to be able to be more strategic in seeing growth and connection with people. That's the point of communication, is not just to say a bunch of facts, but to get them to move.
So good.
Communicate that progression.
So good. I feel like that's the whole theme of these entire 4 roles is get your people to move.
That's right.
Get the organization to move.
Come on, progression is everything.
So good.
All right, guys, I hope you were blessed again this week. 4 things that every CEO or pastor needs to focus on. It's what I focus on. And if you have any questions at all or you want a little bit more clarity, man, hit Tyler up,
Yes.
tyler@bloomhere.org. Shoot him an email. We'd love to help you out any way possible.
Absolutely.
If you like today's episode, make sure you share it, rate it, and review it. Subscribe if you haven't already. And until next week, pray God's peace.